Now for global business updates, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning,
Good morning
to all our viewers out there. Quickly, we start with oil prices. Not much of a change, but remaining elevated where if you're a member of OPEC or an oil producer, you want to see it in the $80 region. The U.S. sanctions on Russia are still reverberating through, and we see West Texas Intermediate 78.45, Brent crude at 80.56. Brent crude was 81 yesterday. Nigeria's benchmark 75, as always. You want the price to be higher than your benchmark. Natural gas coming down just a tad, but still pretty volatile. In fact, we might see some reduction in natural gas volumes as we go towards March, when there's higher demand coming from the South America region. Asian markets. Japan was actually closed yesterday for a holiday. They returned to trading and they were the lone laggard. I think they're still responding to the jobs data that came out in the US. But you see other markets climbing, Shanghai in China, Hang Seng in Hong Kong, Kospi in Korea, reacting to a news report coming out of Bloomberg. And to be fair, Washington Post actually reported this first, that members of, if we go to the US now, members of Donald Trump's economic team. So to the left, you've got Scott Bessent, who is the nominee for the Treasury Secretary role. In the middle is Stephen Morale. He is supposed to be the director of the Council of Economic Advisors to Donald Trump. And to your right is Stephen Hassett, who is supposed to be the director for the National Economic Council. I do wonder if Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will point fingers at the amount of cabinet members that Trump has and whether the government should be cut down. But anyway, the report from Bloomberg is that these are the three chief individuals who are discussing the possibility of reducing the rates at which tariffs are imposed on other nations. So if you take a look at some of the highlights of what is being discussed, essentially they are looking at, instead of just coming out of the gate and slapping an estimated 10 to 20% tariffs on the rest of the world and up to 60% on China, they're looking at slowly introducing them month by month. Then one option would be 2 to 5% increase per month on certain nations. This should be used as a negotiation tactic for leverage, so other countries to increase NATO spending on defense, for instance, and elsewhere. The proposal, we understand, has not yet been submitted to Trump himself. I'm sure he's seen all this stuff. When the Washington Post story came out, he reacted and said it wasn't true, but the markets actually jumped on this particular news. Another thing that's making the news is, of course, TikTok, and we know that the TikTok divest or ban deadline is coming on the 19th of January, which is a day before Trump is inaugurated. We know Trump tried to get the Supreme Court to quickly listen to oral arguments, which started on the 10th, and the vibe from, at least for legal analysts that were listening to the questions that the Supreme Court was lobbying at the TikTok lawyers and also the lawyers for the Justice Department, it suggests that the Supreme Court might actually fall in line with the divest or ban and uphold it. Remember, TikTok already lost it at the appeals court level. So now again, this is just reports. The Chinese authorities are considering selling it as an option to Elon Musk and X. I don't know if he has enough money to do that. He's already bought Twitter. He spent $200 million plus on Trump's election, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, X, as we know, advertisers have been leaving because of the issues with speech and so on. So they need advertisers. That would be a real big boost for X. X would actually potentially, theoretically, under this report, control or run the U.S. TikTok operations, which has upwards of about 170 million users. So we'll see how things develop there. To Nigeria, the federal government savings bond for January, the window is open. So we always talk about investing for those of you with your New Year's resolutions to invest more. So the window opened yesterday and it closes on Friday. It's the same thing every single month. Interest rates for the 2-year, 17.23%. For the 3-year, 18.2%. Interest payments every 3 months. At the bottom there, you see your coupon payments April, July, October, and January on the 22nd of each month. And the key thing here is that there will be another window open in February, March, April. So if you continue to invest every month, you will have an extra stream of income in the form of coupon payments, which will be divided by the interest rate based on how you invest. And your minimum is 5,000, maximum is 50. All right, we continue with our conversation yesterday on the Bureau of Statistics looking to include illegal activities in computation of GDP. Mr. Waniko is a member of the MBS. He came on our Newsnight program, which you can watch 9 p.m. Weekdays. Take a listen to what he said with that respect.
Well, the System of National Accounts 2008, Chapter 5, Chapter 25 specifically, allows you to include illegal activities, not only illegal underground, activities, informal activities. It really has nothing to do with issue of whether we're legalizing some of these activities. Why we intended to put the illegal activities into the GDP was as a result of some of the consultations that we had initially. So it's actually a product of the consultations that we had earlier. Actually, we have numbers for just drug, narcotics, and then the numbers that we have is really insignificant. It's about 0.08 or so, percentage to GDP, which is really, really insignificant. That number came from NDLEA, and then we're also making consultations to see that at the end of the day, based on the feedback that we get from the public, if that can also continue to stand. If our wide consultations profile that this is not the way to go, of course we'll do what is best for the country.
All right, so just going to come to you all, just to show you where the quotes that of the national accounts from 2008. This actually this is the system of national accounts 2008. You can see the OECD, United Nations, and the World Bank. So the particular quotes section it was referring to, just read it for everyone here, just to look at that particular quote from the system of national accounts. And it essentially says, okay, I thought we would have that. Oh, yeah, there it is. Illegal actions that fit the characteristics of transactions, notably characteristic that there is mutual agreement between the parties, so willing buyer, willing seller, are treated the same way as legal actions. The production or consumption of certain goods or services, such as narcotics, may be illegal, but market transactions in such goods and services have to be recorded in the accounts. If expenditures on illegal goods or services by households were to be ignored on the grounds of principle, household savings would be overestimated by the margin to which they were purchased, and households presumed to obtain certain assets that they do not in fact acquire. Clearly, the accounts as a whole are liable to be seriously distorted if monetary transactions that in fact take place are excluded. It may be difficult or even impossible to obtain data about illegal transactions, but in principle, they should be included in the accounts if only to reduce error in other areas, including balancing items. That's our update for today.
I'm glad you brought that quote, because that's exactly where I sit with this, right? So my take on this is that at the end of the day, GDP is not a measure of morality or illegality. It's a measure of economic activity, money changing hands and moving around. What we should be questioning is how this data is going to be obtained. What we should be questioning is how realistic, thorough, and true will the data be? Because what this in essence does is that it now opens a wide door for us to throw in any random numbers to bolster our GDP and make it look healthier than it really is. So, I think that's where we need more questions answered is, okay, fine, yes, they've said EFCC, but there are some transactions that are not as easy to track. We know that Italy does it, Spain does it, UK does it to an extent.
Bulgaria.
United States looks at drugs through personal expenditure. They hide it in there. So it's a global norm. But how are we going to get that data? Very quickly on the United States. So it hurts me to say this, but the data shows that President Trump is inheriting one of the healthiest economies in U.S. history. Does it translate to people's pockets? That's a different conversation. Right. But if you look at the job market, unemployment is down to 4.1%. So it's good to see that he has this team on board who are advising him that the answer, the solution is things are stable. You don't want to come in and rock the boat and just throw in things that might destroy a healthy foundation that has been built. So, good for guys like Scott Bessent. I'm a fan of him.
The fear is that he's going to come in and throw in those policies to scuttle things. I think that's what the concern for a number of people are. And I don't know why it hurts you to say that, Bimba. It's just the truth. It's facts on ground. but okay, let me go to ByteDance and this TikTok thing, because this has been going on for a while. Like you rightly mentioned, the Supreme Court will rule on the 19th of January, even though Trump has said that if they can, move it a bit so that it's while it's under his tenure, because he would like to have a political resolution to this. Finally, ByteDance have responded, because from Bloomberg's article, it said that it approached both parties and none of them had responded. ByteDance said they're not going to respond to fiction. It is fiction, it doesn't exist, or things that people have manufactured. But there are a lot of things, at stake here. Like you mentioned, it's been valued at between $40 to $50 million. If Musk takes over, of course, there are lots of concerns around this. Beyond the monetary aspect of this, which we talked about, he bought X for $44 million. He has some... Billion dollars, sorry. He has some loans to pay off as well. Yeah. So would he be able to afford to pay this? He himself has said that even though it would be good for business for X, he doesn't support banning TikTok because it would challenge freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But maybe there's an interest there to see if he can go in there and get it. It would be too powerful for one man to own both 170 million subscribers, especially with what he's doing with X currently. No. But on a positive note, for another app that is gaining from this, back and forth with ByteDance and the United States is RedNote. They said that RedNote yesterday had the highest downloads and subscribers. As a result, it's also a Chinese company, so they might also run into the same challenges that TikTok is running into in the United States, which is that the Chinese government might use it as a tool to monitor, to influence, or to interfere in political affairs in the United States of America. As it looks, and I'll end here, the Supreme Court looks very likely to uphold the judgment. Yeah. They've expressed the fact that, yes, while freedom of expression is important, national security supersedes freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But let's wait till 19th of January.
Okay, the background to the TikTok story was Parliament, Congress, taking a decision relying on an act that talks about, businesses that are associated with an advisory, political advisory. There's an act to that effect. And the U.S. lawmakers then, on the basis of that, decided to say ByteDance has to sell TikTok to an American entity. Deadline, January 19. TikTok now decided to pursue the matter, saying that these are issues about free speech, about the freedom of expression, for it's between 115 million to 170 million subscribers in the United States. And not just about free speech, there are many businesses that use TikTok and that they too will be affected. So the matter went all the way to the Supreme Court. Last Friday, the Supreme Court took oral arguments. Now, their lordships were not impressed that this would be an infringement on free speech. And so the Supreme Court has not given its verdict yet, but the expectation is that the Supreme Court is likely to uphold the position of the lawmakers of the Congress. Now, Donald Trump has said, look, allow me to seek a political resolution because the deadline is a day before. So what will happen? These are the details. There's a bid already, apart from the Elon Musk attempt by the Chinese that you're talking about. It's called the People's Bid for TikTok, led by a guy called Frank McCourt, who has an organization called Project Liberty. Frank Oliari, who is known as Shank Tank, says that they are willing to make a bid of $20 billion. Now, whether that will work or not, we do not know. However, what is clear is that by the 19th, people are already on the app, will still remain on the app. Those who are just joining will not be able to join. And then you will not be able to re-download the app once that deadline meets you there. That's the situation. And so TikTok is likely to be banned, in the United States this very week. The other issue which Adefemi brought up is about the crisis that we're facing in the United Kingdom, in Britain. The market is in turmoil. And the Prime Minister has had to, more or less in a roundabout way, express a vote of confidence in Rachel Reeves and also our deputy, to say that, okay, they will be there till the next election. But the issue is that the cost of borrowing has gone up, the highest since 2008. The dollar has collapsed, more or less, against the dollar.
Yeah, the pound.
In the pound, rather.
Yeah.
The pound has collapsed against the dollar in the last 14, the highest rate in the last 14 months. So these are the issues. You have that policy, economic growth, not really connecting with policy. Which has, would Richard Rees be worse than Liz Truss? Well, that's part of the agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.